I'm hitting it now. Doesn't say it out loud, it already has. So, what I want to talk about tonight is binge eating. Now, I'm going to try and do this one candid as well. I did actually put slides together, and I'm pretty sure this is a topic that everybody can relate to in one form or another. And I actually quite liked how we just got into it last week without feeling like we're all watching slides. I just don't think sometimes that's always the most helpful way to present it. But before we do, I actually want to shout out three women last week. So we've got Vicky, we have got Catherine, and who was my third one? We've also got it was Caroline. Now there are a few Carolines, so if it's not you, you'll know that it wasn't you. But all three of them actually reached out. Now, two of them specifically off the back of the Zoom that I did last week to say, that's actually happened to me right now, or I'm in a bit of a hole I'm struggling to find my way out of. And ironically, it was more to do with this topic specifically. So I thought, right, it's very prevalent, relevant, and we might as well cover it off because it's something that we will always see women struggle with inside of the program, outside of the program. It's always a highly like conversational topic, really. And yeah, all three of them reached out. Now, I love this because that's what we ask for as your coaches. If you wait too long to reach out, then we can't actually help you in the moment. And then what can happen is one day can trickle into two, two can trickle into three, and before you know it, you might have a few days where actually you haven't sought the help. And we are always open to anybody saying, I am struggling with this thing, is there any guidance or anything, or we can help talk you back off the ledge, whatever it might be, we can actually help you guys with. So I wanted to shout out those three women because I know it does put you in a position of being vulnerable to say, I am struggling with X. But again, what we don't want is to miss the window and wait until check-in or a midweek stalk or whatever. Do you know what I mean? There's always going to be a couple of days before you might actually see something or for us to pick up on it. So if you tell us as it's happening, we can actually do something as your coaches. So I wanted to shout out those three women for being vulnerable and actually putting themselves first because that's amazing. Also wanted to shout out, we have three new legends joining. So we've got Megan, Leah, and Anne who have all joined in the last week. So welcome officially to Strong Her. And I don't know if anyone's managed to make the training. Just looking through, some of you guys, it just says iPad. So I don't know who everybody is, to be fair. So if you're on, great. If you're not, hopefully you can watch it back. But I want to talk about binge eating. Now, I have a background more so of binge drinking than binge eating. And some of you guys will know my story, some of you guys might not, but where during lockdown, due to enormous amounts of stress and pressure. So, for context, we were raising finance on this house. This house was not bought conventionally. Those of you who might know, but we also are property investors. We do that as well. So, raising enormous amounts of money way outside of our comfort zone. We had the offer accepted before we knew how we were actually going to buy it. Massive amounts of pressure, stress and pressure rather, not for the faint-hearted is what I will say. But meanwhile, COVID was happening. We were watching the news. Those death tolls were on the rise every single day. Thomas's father also got COVID in a really, really bad way to a point where, like, I've actually never, in all the years I've been with Thomas, seen him ever break down. And this was like horrendous to see when we were in our own bubble. We weren't allowed to visit. It was honestly awful. And the relationship he's got with his dad is like mega, mega close. So the concept of losing him, we were drinking every single night. Every single night, we would turn to alcohol as a way to try and minimize the pain. It was a bit of, and for us, it was a form of escape. It was a form of, oh, we'll just get drunk and then all of our problems will go away and we won't have to deal with anything. And it was a dark, horrible time. And we were able to pull ourselves out of it, thank God. But some of you guys, it might be drinking, it might most commonly be food related. But the thing I want you to really think about is what is the cause behind, like, what's the trigger? There's usually a trigger event. And again, speaking completely candidly, usually the more overweight a person is, the deeper the trigger actually runs. And it can run even as early as childhood. And you might just not have ever identified what that thing actually was for you. So I've coached women with so many different stories, so many different things that have happened to them, literally ranging as far wide as you can imagine. And it's fucking horrible. It's awful what some women have been through years gone by. Now some of you guys, and the food has basically become the coping mechanism, so that in a similar way it might not be an escapism, but what we're essentially doing when we connect our emotions to this item, we're trying to chase a dopamine hit. That's what we're doing. So dopamine is a feel-good chemical that is released inside of our bodies when we actually get our hit, so to speak. So it is a similar thing that happens with like smoking, with alcohol, with drugs. It's a similar thing, but they have very addictive qualities. But a lot of food nowadays also has highly addictive qualities in the form of E numbers. So you won't usually hear somebody binging on chicken. Let's be completely realistic. You don't hear somebody binging on tofu if they're vegetarian. It's always going to be something more like chocolate or crisps or something that feels like it's going to scratch that itch. And it usually is because it is a more highly processed food group. And again, it is designed to be incredibly moreish. It's designed so that you struggle to put it back down after you just have a little bit of it. Like, and it's also designed quite cheaply, so you can smuggle it into your body with relative ease without really thinking about the consequences. But you've always got to consider, what is the causation of this? Am I boredom eating? Am I stress eating? Am I triggered by something that's happened in the day? So that could be, I don't know, a work conflict, something that is making your anxiety bubble up to the surface. It could be something outside of your control, like with us, a family member being really poorly, and we were turning to this as a way to try and make ourselves feel better. But you've really got to try and go, what's actually triggering the cause? And this is what I went through with one of the women who reached out. Like, what actually made you feel that way? And hers was very much a work stress, a work tension that wasn't resolved quickly, and she was feeling like she needed a way to try and make herself feel better and cue the thing that has always done that for her, which is obviously the food piece. So instead of just thinking, and by the way, how do you know if it is a binge eating tendency or a binge drinking tendency or whatever? The quickest way of knowing this is the word guilt. If you feel guilty after you've done the thing, had the thing, if there is that element of feeling any remorse, any guilt, any negative self talk, that's the moment that you know, right, okay, something's arisen here. Something, because if you don't have those tendencies, then you won't really feel the guilt. Like, for instance, I could have a bar of chocolate and I wouldn't feel guilty about it because it's not, I don't have any connection to chocolate. It's very unlikely that you will see me eat chocolate. Maybe just as my period is coming in, I might consider chocolate, but chocolate is not one of my vices. I don't love it. I'm not obsessed with it. It's just not for me. A bit like we were talking about cake earlier. Again, I don't have a sweet tooth like that. Mine is more sweets, as in the actual physical sweets that you would buy, like that you give children, like pick a mix. That's more likely where you are going to see me buried in a bag of rather than anything else. But again, I probably wouldn't feel guilty about it. But during lockdown, when we were drinking every night, I did feel guilty. I did think we should not be doing this. And I knew the difference between how I felt like we should be behaving versus how we were behaving, because we all have this notion of what's right and what's wrong. And it's not necessarily about it being right or wrong, it's about addressing what's actually going on so that we can try and pivot and attach new habits to that thing. But first of all, you have to recognize it. Now, one of the things I would do is acknowledge the moment. So if it happens, even afterwards, if you can catch it before, amazing. If you're thinking, I'm really craving this thing, genuinely ask yourself, am I hungry? Or am I doing this for a very different reason? And I would keep a note of that. Now, you guys can keep a note in your daily check ins. If you are brand new to the program, I won't have most likely talked you through that yet. So hold your horses. That will be revealed on Wednesday. But you can put that note in if you think, I did have a bit of a moment there. And if you aren't able to overcome it, again, please bloody reach out to us so we can try and nip it in the bud as quickly as you notice it's happening. But if you are able to control it, it's a really good place to put that note and then really take a moment to go, right, what was the cause of this? What was the reason why this happened? Like, if I talk through an experience that one of the women had, now she, again, I wouldn't say she has binge eating tendencies, but she was a first responder, first on the scene to a cardiac arrest the other day. Like, somebody was actually in a major accident and went into cardiac arrest, and essentially she was performing life-saving CPR. Now, that could easily be a trigger for somebody else inside of this program. That feeling, and I did have to talk to her about taking some time to digest and acknowledge what she actually went through in that moment, because that's a lot to suddenly just get landed with. And that's not something that you would expect to happen in an average day. So those are the kind of things where you go, actually, that would make sense why you might start to go into a little bit of a spiral. Or, like I say, if you're going through a difficult scenario at work, or if you are incredibly bored, that can also be one of your triggers to go, I was bored and I'm just eating for the sake of eating. But how do I go about switching that feeling off? And especially for those of you who work from home, even if it's only on certain days, like for me, this is my work environment. I do have an office, by the way. I just don't like working from there. I don't know why. I like the feng shui of this room, but my fridge is right there. Do you know what I mean? Unless I've got a little bit of discipline about myself, a little bit of structure, a little bit of organization, as long as I know what I'm having throughout the day. If not, I could quite easily turn to that fridge and decide to undo everything and go on a little bit of a binge. Now, one of my options, now I do not have children, full disclosure, this could be a little bit harder if you do have them, but I don't buy it. I simply do not buy it. And I was also raised in an incredibly poor household where my mom also did not buy it. Now, that probably is a great trick for health and fitness for children. Again, generation where we used to play outdoors for hours and hours. So we were incredibly fit children. But my mum used to buy me a 10 pence chewy bar, like the little refresher chewy bars. I used to get a 10 pence flump. And every Wednesday, and I was thinking about this earlier, why was it a Wednesday? And I think it was probably, and this is hilarious because the younger generation wouldn't get this, and even it took me a bit of time to get there. But my granny used to go to the newspaper shop every Wednesday, and I used to get a crunchie. That was my like chocolate of choice. It's not even chocolate again, not a big lover of chocolate, but and I think it was because the TV Times was released that day. So she will have been going to go and get her copy of a TV Times on a Wednesday, which just seems so obsolete now. But that was it. That was literally all we had in our house as snacks. So what I used to snack on if I was ever a little bit hungry or I didn't eat my dinner and whatever reason, I would literally eat raw spaghetti. That was one of the things I used to snack on because you had to get creative in our household. Raw chips. I still like raw chips. If I'm ever cooking a little batch of chips or whatever, I will take one and I will eat a raw chip. Absolutely disgusting. Thomas, it gives him the biggest ick known to man. But again, I didn't have options for endless and endless amounts of sweets, treats, chocolate, crisps. That just didn't exist in our household. So trying to avoid buying it in the first place, if you can, is obviously going to help you. Now, if let's take chocolate, if that's one of your vices, what I would do, I probably wouldn't restrict myself 100%. I probably wouldn't do that. And I get it. Sometimes this notion of going all or nothing feels like what you have to do. But I am a bit of a believer in if you take it out altogether, you'll probably try and pick up a different habit. Now, unless that habit is going to be incredible and serve you, but if you're still chasing the fix, like it's when people that have alcohol tend to start smoking. People that stop smoking tend to start vaping. People who start vaping then tend to turn to food, so on and so forth. And it is just that loop, and you're just switching one thing with another. So what I would do is I would buy a single item just like my mum did for me. I would buy something that is an individual and I would say, I'm going to have that when I do my shopping. That is my treat to me. And once it's gone, it is gone. So I'm going to savor it and I'm going to enjoy it in the moment. But I'm not going to buy like a multi-pack. I'm not going to buy endless amounts of the thing. I'm just going to choose what my thing is that I love to have so that I can build that in on a weekly thing. And a weekly whisper or a weekly dairy milk or whatever is not going to undo your entire progress. Every single one of you will have the calorie allowance to be able to build something in. Gemma, great example, she has a Freddo. Nearly every single day, she has a little Freddo and it just keeps her satisfied. It just scratches that itch. And it's such a small thing that she's able to cope with that through it. And again, like somebody that's gone through a lot of different things in the past. So food became the coping mechanism. So she's learning to go, right, okay, I'm not going to restrict myself. I'm not going to tell myself I can't have anything, but I'm just going to make sure that it fits within my macros and I'm going to allow myself to have it. Um, so that's one trick that you can absolutely do. Another one is switching it with a new habit. Now, we replaced alcohol with the gym. It doesn't even remotely sound like a direct correlation, but it genuinely was because we would wake up every single morning feeling like shit and hungover. So what we decided was we were going to set our alarm at 6 o'clock every damn morning and we were going to get ourselves to the gym. And we did go every day. Bearing in mind, that was at a point I had no idea what I was doing. I did not know that you didn't need to train 7 days a week in order to get results. So we were there every single day, even on bank holidays. And we would go to the gym not knowing it was shut until like 9 o'clock in the morning. We didn't know this. And we're like, fuck, now we're here, but we can't actually go in. That's how obsessed and addicted we became. But it was an addiction then. I massively chased the endorphins of going into that gym and beasting myself in the best possible way. Now, that is a positive addiction, I would say. I mean, it was quite extreme. Like I say, we did do it in a way that it was like, but it had to be for us. It had to be an everyday thing to go, I need to shift this and I need to do that. And that's what got us up at 6 o'clock in the morning every single day because we had a purpose. We had a new purpose, a new desire to make that happen. Then I got educated. So that's another thing that you can do. Now, it might well be that you're able to switch a sweet treat with something like you might be able to have something like a Greek yogurt with some fruit in and maybe a little bit of honey. It might be I know, like Caroline, for instance, when I introduced her to the protein yogurts in Aldi, she was beside herself. And she went that day, she was like, wow. And she came out with like all of these different types and she absolutely loves them. And again, that's the point. Like, you can get chocolate mousse flavor, you can get the ones with the granola on top, so it feels a bit more breakfasty. You can get like salted caramel, like strawberry, whatever flavor, lemon cheesecake, rice pudding. Like, honestly, the options are absolutely endless. So if you've got a sweet tooth and you know mid-afternoon, that's my point where I would normally turn to X, Y, and Z. that's going to serve you instead. Actually going, right, I'm going to go there and I'm going to get something that is still sweet, but it's going to have 20, 25, 30 grams of protein in. So I know I'm actually getting my protein fix at the same time as feeling like I'm having something naughty, even though it's actually not. Now, basics. If you are going into your day having no clue what your breakfast is, what your lunch is, and what your dinner is going to be, you are setting yourself up to fail. Genuinely, you are setting yourself up to probably crash. And then you are going to tank your blood sugar. And guess what? You're going to end up hungry and you are going to spike all of the hormones that tell you I need something now and I need something that's probably not going to serve me. I'm probably going to pick up some very carby items. I'm probably going to nip into Greg's. They seem to be everywhere these days, especially if you are a woman on the road and you've got a lot of access to service stations. If you're not planning, and a lot of them have a fucking M&S, you can plan to go, right, there's going to be an M&S at this location on the motorway. I'm going to go in and I'm going to get a salmon salad, or I'm going to go in and I'm going to get whatever it might be. Or you go, ah, oh, fuck, now I'm going to go and get a McDonald's. Like I was trying to think before this when the last time I had a McDonald's was, and I think it was the one, those of you who've been in the program a little while, the night that we went to see that Elton John concert. And it was because we found a stray dog outside. So we ended up losing like 45 minutes trying to find the stray dog's owner before we could actually go and get food. And all we had was about 15 minutes. So that was major. We don't have a choice here. We either eat or we're either starving or we get a McDonald's. Now, again, that's not a frequent thing. So that's absolutely fine. And again, I didn't feel any guilt. This is the point. My plans were derailed. It sounds like the dog ate my homework, but genuinely, that was a true story. Like we seem to find lots of oh my God, random animals on our street. But I didn't feel guilty about the McDonald's. I don't feel guilty about it. I don't have that food guilt because I know that's not a common occurrence and I'm okay with that. So again, it's that when it's under control, I feel okay about it. But I do always know what my breakfast is going to be, what my lunch is going to be, and I know what my dinner is going to be. Tonight, it was chili con carne with my millions tons of vegetables because again, that usually makes the weekly cut. By the way, is that it? I feel like that's the right side. We do have a new slow cooker. It's enormous, and now we need to work out a home for it because we can't find where the hell we're going to put that in the kitchen. Um, but this is it. If you know that in advance, you can then handle the ability to go, I'm not going to let myself drop into starvation mode. And then I'm not as likely to trigger. And again, if you know I'm a little snacky Karen about 11 a.m., you start to build a snack in. You start to go, I'm going to have a piece of fruit, or I'm going to have some carrot sticks and hummus, or I'm going to have whatever it might be for you. Start thinking that's my snacky point. Karen, I just said your name. It was just, I'm not calling you out. Like, Karen just snacks all the time. She does not, for the record. She does not. She looks incredible, by the way. Absolutely sensational. But this is it. You need to learn yourself. Weekends, another one. A lot of people behave very differently on the weekends. And guess why? Because a lot of corporate women don't work the weekends. So your routine tends to look very different at the weekend, which can start to mean you make different choices. But again, if you're organized and you're planned to say, right, okay, breakfast, lunch, dinner, I don't suddenly just need to fall into these habits. I don't just have to do them. Now, some of you guys might choose to have something on a weekend. You might go out for brunch, which you can build into your calories, most likely. You might choose, or you might bank a little bit throughout the week to buy yourself a bit on the weekend, or you might choose to have a glass of wine. If you're making that choice and you're okay with it and it's not a constant, that's absolutely fine because that's not just a habit. It's when you're into the negative habit. And if you're going every single weekend, I'm going to go off the rails, or I'm going to go out for brunch, I'm going to go out for dinner, and I'm going to have loads of drinks, you're probably not likely to see the same level of results as some women who are prepared to make at least some sacrifices to go, actually, that's the old me. You know what? I can go this weekend on plan. You know what? I can forgo some of those things and I can make slightly different decisions. And I'm okay with that. But next weekend, I've got plans, and you know what? That's so and so's wedding or such and such's birthday. And actually, I want to celebrate that. So this weekend, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to make it happen. And I'm going to choose to time that in around a refeed. If you don't know what that is, you will at some stage, I promise you. But this is it. We can start to get a little bit more clever with how we do things. But for me, journaling can be a massive game changer. If you feel these feelings spiraling, write them down and write how you're feeling and write why you think it's actually triggered you, and then share that information with us. Actually acknowledge the reason behind what's happening. Prevention is usually better than cure where possible. And again, 3 meals a day and 1000% not skipping breakfast is always going to serve you. And again, if you feel your hunger levels rising, that's when you need to take a step back and go, right, okay, I need to do something about this because I've allowed those hunger levels to come through the roof. I'm going to make different decisions here. Bit of house accountability as well. You can tell other people in your household if you live with people and you share space with people and you say, right, I really struggle with this thing actually, and being vulnerable with those people around you to say, you know what, I would struggle with this and I would really appreciate maybe not bringing those foods into the house temporarily, or I'd appreciate having somebody else to come to if I'm feeling a certain way. I want to be able to talk to somebody else about this too, because again, that's another layer of accountability that you can actually build in, even inside of your household. If that feels like a safe space for you to be able to talk around, that would be a great thing too. I decided for Thomas and I what we were doing. I'm like a dictatorship in this household. So I was like, I'm the one that's taking action. I'm the one that's going to get to the gym. But we are now doing this together. So there is no alcohol to come into this house for the time being. I was like, nope, that is not happening. And we didn't want to because we were on our health and fitness journey. We genuinely didn't want to have takeaways. We didn't want to. That's another thing, by the way. Alcohol can spike, or social circles, they can also spike the feelings of needing to do things differently. So if you are attending an event and everybody around you is behaving in a certain way, that peer pressure feeling to join in is an enormous one, where again, sometimes your environment can kind of force your hand. And this is where I am very, very comfortable telling people to fuck off. Probably why I don't have many friends. But genuinely, like, it can get a little bit contentious when we go on holiday because I don't like to drink as much anymore. I genuinely don't. It's not a part of my life anymore. But Thomas's mom loves to drink, loves it. Like every night she expects everybody to be drinking. And I'm like, nope. And she's really unfortunate with me and Thomas's sister's boyfriend. He doesn't really like to drink either. All four of us are big into the gym and fitness and health. And bless her, she's like, oh, you're all fucking boring. And I'm like, if that's what you think, that's absolutely fine. Like, and I like to go to bed at 10 o'clock even on holiday. I'm like, I like to go to sleep. And I'm like, I also need a lot of time to decompress. And I find that a very high pressure environment, being around people all day long, I'm like, no, I need some time to switch off. Whereas they want time to switch on and go, right, let's go see the entertainment. And I'm thinking, I want to be in bed. I just want to be in bed. But again, I'm quite happy to speak my truth and say, I'm not drinking tonight and I'm fine. I didn't get the choice on this holiday. I was sick for most of it. But again, being able to stand your ground and say, I'm here and I'm having a great time and I will be the life of that party. If there's a dance floor and a DJ, I am on it. I am on it and I do not care. I don't need alcohol to have a great time. Do you know what I mean? And that's the point. You can still be present in environments, but still be yourself without having to succumb to everything around you. Like it's still a choice. And I would definitely say to try and avoid allowing yourself to be manipulated by other people around you. It doesn't mean they can't do the thing. You're not by any means stopping them, but you're at least making your own choices. And again, and if you choose it, I honestly want you to not feel the guilt if you go down the road, because guilt does not serve you. Guilt does not do anything apart from cause a huge amount of anxiety and most likely keep you in that vicious loop for even longer. Make your damn decision and be good with it, either way that you go. And in an ideal world, there are times where you're going to fuck it up because that's real life. We are humans, we are not robots. From time to time, we are going to fuck it up and we absolve all guilt and we go, that's okay, I'm going to park it now. And I'm going to move on from it. I'm going to talk to my coach about it. I'm going to do a bit of self reflection of why it happened. But if we're not fucking up from time to time, then we lose the ability to learn lessons. And then some of the time, we want you to be able to make a decision to go, no, I'm strong enough. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because the power you will feel in that moment is a massive learning curve, a massive game changer to go, I didn't succumb in that moment and I feel great for that. And again, that was a choice, but we just don't want to feel the guilt because then you're just trapping yourself into that hamster wheel circle. So we want to get off that as fast as we can and back into making good decisions. So that's probably about where I wanted to go with that. So let's just have a look. So I used to eat frozen chips before cooking. It's a funny one, isn't it? I like you don't meet many other frozen chip eaters, but you and I, Michelle, would have a great time in the freezer. I've retrained myself to like dark chocolate with sea salt. There are loads of benefits, by the way, to over 70% cocoa level. So over that level, just one square a day keeps the doctor away. So actually, if you want to build that in, that's a great way of doing it to have dark chocolate. Now you could literally have a square on porridge with some protein or whatever you want it to be. You could literally just eat the square later in the day if you want a bit of a snack. But it is, yeah, it is actually really beneficial. There are 10 squares in a pack, so sometimes when I need it, I have 2 squares, but I know that's a limit for the week, so that's okay. So you've set like your parameter for going, ideally, I want 1 square, but if I'm going to have two, I'm going to have two, and I'm not going to be mad about it. I'm okay with that choice to go. And what's also great about that, if there are 10 squares in a pack, and you actually say, right, like I could have one a day, but on like the other couple of days, there's still enough left to actually have two. But when the pack is gone, I don't get another one until I go shopping again. And remember, calories work on a weekly bank. Yes, you will notice fluctuations throughout the week, but they do work on a weekly span. So even if you do have a little bit more on one day, if you have a bit less the next day and you're still within that range, you're still absolutely fine. So that's a great example with the chocolate. I have a mini Twix most days. Great. That's another a little fix. I like Twixes too. I also have a Freddo at least 5 times a week. My little treat, and it takes the edge off. I get like brilliant. Again, that's the kind of thing we're talking about. Not removing it altogether, just going, how can I make this work within my allowance? A spiced ginger tea helps my sweet cravings. It's whatever works for you, and I can see why that would work. I wouldn't like it personally. I don't think I like the sound of that one, but if it works for you, and again, making sure you are hydrated, just ticking the basic boxes first might actually be something to go, oh yeah, you know what, another one is the 0 calorie pop, like the fizzy drinks. That's another great way if you've got a little bit of a sweet tooth and you've got that craving. There are studies, I've talked about this before, but where they do actually prove that if you do that, you're likely to stay on to your fat loss journey a lot longer and lose more than somebody that doesn't do that. Now, if you don't have a sweet tooth, you don't suddenly need to bring in fizzy 0 calorie drinks. But if you do, it is definitely an option. And I do have a Coke Zero a day. I really, really like it. I find it very quenching. So I will have that with either my lunch or with my dinner. And it feels like a bit of a naughty thing, but I like it. So I'm happy to do it. And I'm not on a cut, I'm not on a bulk right now. I'm just maintaining, but that's just one of my daily habits. And if I run out, I am like a psychopath. I'm like, oh my God, like we need to go to the shop immediately and get some Coke Zeros. But I don't like full fat Coke, ironically. I also do not like Diet Coke. Is that the other one? Don't like them. I don't think they taste anywhere near the same. I like a Coke Zero, and that is my thing. Does anybody have anything else they want to share or anything else that they find helps them in terms of cravings or little tricks that you've picked up along the way? Or anyone want to share what their cravings usually are for? That's always an interesting one to see what everybody's individual thing of choice is. Like I say, mine is very much more likely to be sweets. I know undies, yours is sweets, just food. I mean, food is good. Food is good. We should all crave food. That's a positive thing. That's not a bad thing at all. So, yeah, what are anyone else's things that you would like, things that you would love to have an abundance of from time to time? Some people's is cake. Um, oh, biscuits is a good one. Biscuits is a good one. I forget about biscuits. I am inclined to a shortbread, the good ones from the Scottish shortbread. If it's shit shortbread, I'm not going near it. But if it's the good one, I love that. And my mum will buy me a big packet for Christmas, and I will enjoy that with a cup of tea. Depends on the time of the month. Sometimes chocolate, sometimes crisps, sometimes biscuits, crisps, Jaffa cakes. Louise. Ugh. I've got this thing that there's too many things there. I have a weird thing with texture and foods touching, but jelly in a biscuit, and it is a biscuit, isn't it? And I'm like, or is it? They don't call it, even though it's a cake. I'm sure they call it a biscuit, but it's fucking wrong. And orange anything. If it's that orange anything, I'm out. I am out. Doesn't matter if it's an orange club, orange cake. No, you're on your own with that one, mate. But I do know, who was it? Was it Jojo? Sure, it's Jojo that won a Jaffa cake eating contest as her fun fact into the program. I'm sure it was. Biscoff. Yeah, that's a common one. Or Nutella. They're like jars. I used to live with a girl years ago in Lincoln, and she would just spoon Nutella out of one of those gigantic jars, and she would just spoon it into her mouth. And I was a bit like, well, this is very socially unacceptable. I felt like even back then I was like, this is strange. Is that normal? But to her, that was her thing. That's what she did every night as like pudding, so to speak. But she would skip meals. I would watch her like, oh, what are you having for your dinner? Oh no, I'm just gonna eat my Nutella. And I'm like, okay, that's, do you know what I mean? Like even then I remember picking up on it, and we're going back like at least, I'd probably say at least like 13 years or so. Cake because it's VAT free. What do you mean? You know, is that actually literal? That can't be literal. Do what? You don't pay value added tax on cake? You don't pay it on kids' clothes, but this is new to me if that's actually literal, or does that stand for something else? I'm like, wait, what? I have no idea what you mean. Um, Used to be 12 in a pack, now there's only 10. They've gone down. That's happened across the board, hasn't it? Everything has just shrunk, like literally shrunk. Um, what is that? I work in retail, FMCG. I'll send you something about it after. I'm assuming that's legit, that you don't pay tax on cake. Never knew this. Genuinely never thought about like food tax, apart from like cheese tax to the dogs. That's the only like food tax I've ever considered is the cheese tax. I used to love pigs in blankets, crisps. Yeah, Tracy, that was a big one for you. Could eat a family bag in one sitting before the program. Had some last week as I had them in Aldi. I really didn't enjoy them. What have you done to me? Yeah, this is a big one. so what you've done is connect where you were to that food, to very specifically that food. And I do remember our very first like Zoom conversation on that was your vice, that was your thing. And it is that feeling of then going, actually, if I do this, I don't feel like I'm enjoying it. I don't feel like it's serving me anymore. So you've come out of the kind of binge cycle where that's no longer a thing that you want to have because you've connected that to where you were. So that's definitely a positive thing. Done, not gone. Where are we? Why does Coke, Fanta, etc. have a sugar tax then, but Coke, oh, sorry, but cake doesn't? Yeah, that is an interesting one, isn't it? You would think it would be across the board, wouldn't you? That they would just tax because it is supposed to be a sugar tax. So yeah, that doesn't make any sense, doesn't it? That it's not. But yeah, I'm not the tax police on food, unfortunately. That's definitely not my area of expertise. But I know they are. What did I see the other day? They're trying to introduce something else as well. I can't remember what it is. I'll have to try and wrap my brain for that. But there's another thing that they are trying to introduce in order to try and, again, kind of tackle obesity and prevent people from overindulging in certain things. Is it HFS? You got to stop talking in acronyms for the Christ. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, for the love of God, like. Stopping adverts. It might be high fat, salt, and sugar. I honestly can't remember. I'll do some digging into it. I can't. I saw it somewhere, and obviously wasn't paying. Yeah, I think that could have been it. Special deals on health unhealthy foods. That might have been it. The inability to do that. Um, no, and that no, that was it. I did see that. No refills on full fat fizzy drinks bought last week. Yes, sorry, that was it. That was the thing that I saw. The inability to have more than one. And again, I don't know how, yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? And I'm assuming that does not apply if there are 0 calories. I haven't studied it, I haven't looked into it. I just remember seeing it come up, thinking like, oh. And again, I imagine most people are just walking past the signs, quite honestly. How the fuck do you police that? I don't. Sometimes I just think it's so arse about tit, isn't it? How they go about things. That's not going to prevent anybody from doing anything. Like, that's the long and short of it. That's a crock of shit, isn't it? It's not going to do anything. But yeah, that was it. That was what I saw. But I think they are clamping down on quite a lot of things to try and actually do something. Um, but I think some campaigns are probably going to be a lot more successful than others. Right, while you guys have got me, oh, Karen, nope, I've read that one. Is there anything else anybody wants to ask while you've got me? Anything program, form related, anything? I'm going to try and do some form videos this week, more educational stuff, and hopefully my microphone is actually working because that's always nice. And anything at all, nutrition wise, literally steps, routine, sleep. You name it. This is your time to shine. And you can put it in the chat box, by the way. You don't have to unmute. Or you can unmute. Totally your choice. Anyone struggling with anything that they would like to just share? And again, this is a place where vulnerability is protected and nobody is mocked. The minute anybody mocked another woman inside of this program, you would be out before your feet would touch the ground. And that is a hard rule, uncompromisable. So if anybody's struggling with anything at all, I've done what I can today, but struggling to feel like I'm back on track after holiday. You're in a transition mode. Now, what I would do, Gemma, is be a little bit kind to yourself and go, right, okay, I'll use this as my test run week to kind of go, you know what, it might not be perfect, but here are my non-negotiables. I'm going to get my water in. I'm going to think about, right, I might not get all of my gym sessions in, but I'm going to aim to get some of them in. I might not be bang on with all of my food, but I'm going to get my protein in. I would set some non-negotiables as a little bit of a filter back in, because what happens when you go on holiday, you come back up to maintenance, maybe even a teeny tiny surplus, but it usually is just water retention, comes straight back off again. Then what happens is you spike your metabolism back up. So going back into a cut, into a deficit, suddenly feels like right at the beginning where it is just a bit harder for that first week or two to get into the swing of it. But once you're back into the swing of it, it comes again. But also thinking countdown to Christmas is on. That is a big one now. Think, I'm going to enjoy my Christmas. I'm going to enjoy my New Year. And I'm going to take a bit of time. That's going to be a pullback season. But now we are in posh. Posh as much as you can in the next kind of 11 weeks, because I promise you that gives you the right to enjoy a bit of time off over the holidays. So you want to be able to push and make the most of it. I've struggled the last 2 weeks with illness. It's really hard to get back into it. So fucking hard. Like, honestly, the amount of sickness that has gone around this country in the last, I would say, in the last month has been crazy. And again, I would probably, Mandy, do exactly what I've just said to Jem. Just ease your way back in. Definitely take gym sessions very, very steady after you've been poorly. You haven't lost muscle, but your body's going to know about it and you will get DOMS if you go too hell for leather. So take it very, very steady. And again, you might get 2 sessions in, not 3. So do what you're capable of doing and think baby steps. Right, I can get my steps in. That's an easy win. I can hit my water goals. Hydration, that's going to be an easy win. I can track my protein, but it might not look 100%. You've got to get yourself back into the habits, back into the routine, and maybe use this week as a bit of a run up and then think, right, I'm actually going to smash it next week and I'm going to do what I can this week, but I'm not going to put myself under a huge amount of pressure to go 0 to 100 again overnight. Your body needs a bit of rest, it needs a bit of recovery. So ease your way back in, is what I would say. Main struggle is that the gym is full of men coming in groups of 3 or 4 to train together, always on the machine I need to use. It can be occupied for ages. Yeah, this is a very typical issue, and I'm going to assume you train in the evening. Now, you don't tend to find this in the morning, and you don't typically, depending on whether it's a uni gym or not, but you don't tend to typically find this like in the day either in the gym. But I used to teach classes in the gym of an evening, and it was like hordes of just group of men or young men, or they were everywhere. Now, they're usually really nice people, really polite, but they will stay on certain bits of kit for fucking ever. Now, you are within your rights to go up and say, do you mind me asking how many sets you've got left, please? That immediately tells them there is somebody waiting for this bit of equipment. Takes a bit of confidence, but it is 100% acceptable gym etiquette to approach those people and say, do you mind how many sets you've got left? Not how long, not how much time, how many sets? And then you will get some form of an answer where they go, oh, actually, we're finishing up, or we've got a couple of more sets, or they might give you a time frame. But what it does is very politely say, I would like to get on this bit of equipment. Now, second thing I'll say on that is you don't need to worry about the order. If you can't get on everything in the perfect order, that is absolutely fine. It's not a problem. If there are things, cables, usually, the cable machines. If there are things you are repeatedly struggling to get onto, please tell me in your check-in or tell me at any point throughout the week, and I will try and substitute that for a different exercise where I think you'll be able to get onto it. So Jane, I know, has massive issues getting on the cable. So now we just take out the cable exercises and we just change them to other things. So if it's a repeated issue, we'll just substitute it for a where it's working the same muscle groups, but it's going to be a lot easier. So there are different things that we can do on that one. Somebody was reading a book between sets on the Smith machine the other night. Made me chuckle. That's like my dream right there. Maybe I ought to start taking my book into the gym. Gym was dead, so worked around it, but would have been frustrating. Again, I would ask them, do you mind me asking how many sets you've got left, please? Because then they'll start to go, oh, somebody actually wants this bit of kit. Maybe, because it's not gym etiquette to read your fucking book in the gym. I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says, that is not gym etiquette. So that person is in the wrong there. Now, okay, he might be reading his book bang on for the amount of rest that that person was actually taking. But it isn't gym etiquette. Do you know what I mean? You are well within your rights to just politely ask them how many sets they've got left. But that is the terminology that we would use inside of the gym just to shuffle somebody along their way. Um, or exactly as Rachel said, you can ask to work in. This depends on how comfortable you are, and it depends on how comfortable the other person is, and sometimes on the exercise. Now, if it was squats or something like that, probably not going to work. But if it, or leg press, weights might be so dramatically varied. But if it's a cable bit of kit or something where you're just putting the pin in, that's a really easy one where you could probably work in like a leg press or something. Um, she gives no shits. I don't think I've ever worked in with anyone, but I do train at a time where it is generally quite quiet. And also I go to a gym where Coach Kat and I go. There are multiple, we've got two Smith machines. We've probably got about six, seven squat racks. We've got like our hardest part is the functional area where that's not particularly big. So if you want to do some slightly more free weight stuff, free exercises, there's not a huge amount of room. But I think we've got two leg extensions. We've got about 58 leg curls. We've got, there is a variation of everything in that gym about 5 times over. So it's not something that we have. I'm now confident enough to ask, wasn't to start with, but I am now. Tonight, I was the only woman in the free weight section and I owned it. Amazing. And this is it. You've got to remember you paid the same gym membership as everybody else. If you're training from the gym, if you're training from home, this will never be an issue unless you're sharing it with partner or something else. But you pay the same gym membership as everybody else. You have just as much right to be there. I do think the guys who band around and join in groups, they are usually some of the loveliest people. So they are actually very approachable, usually, from my experience of, like I say, actually working in the gym. They're usually the people that have the most amount of banter, the biggest smiles on their faces, and they are up for having a bit of a laugh with you. So if you can make, if you see the same people every night, start to smile, start to warm up to people, start to crack jokes with people. Do you know what I mean? And then you feel like it's your space and like you actually belong there. And that is obviously a game changer for the longevity of your training. And because you will find friendly faces in that gym crowd, 1000%. And you will start to get compliments from those around you as well. Um, I'm going to try to go from 7 p.m. and see if it's quieter. I cannot really go in the morning, and even if I could, I'm probably not mentally ready for that. This is it. There is no right or wrong in times of training. There genuinely isn't. My experience from 7 p.m. in the gym is that it will filter out and it will get a little bit quieter from 7 p.m. So if that still works for you, you will find, especially as you move through your session, the gym will empty out at that point. So you will see that. Right, legends, I'm going to love you and leave you. Like I say, we will be doing a little bit of a midweek stalky stalk for those who need it on Wednesday, but don't wait. If you need us before then, please reach out because we will always get back to you in a timely fashion, especially if we think anyone is struggling or needs a bit of extra support. We are always here for every single one of you. So have an incredible week. It's a good week to have a good week. So absolutely fucking smash it. Couple of weeks left of October. Go out with a damn bang, ladies. Mwah. Bye.